So we are doing quadratic formula to solve a quartic. That means I'm going to take something that's made for a quadratic and change it to make it work for my quartic, all right? Adjust it a little bit, all right? First thing we need to know is that up here, I can take out my lightsaber. The a squared plus bx plus c, that is the standard form of a quadratic. Notice how everybody's on one side, and it is set equal to 0. All right? That is important. Make sure it is set equal to 0, okay? Just like when we were factoring, having it set equal to 0 is the very first step to make sure. Then I'm going to look and make sure that my exponents go down in order. So it does, x squared, then x, then my constant, okay? Underneath that is my quadratic formula. So if you see here, this is my quadratic formula. A couple things I want to point out to you. One, notice how I've labeled my A, my B, my C, and labeled with the same color where they go within the formula, yes? Second, do you see that negative? It's not blue, correct? Because it's there no matter what that B is. So it has to be a negative B. If B is negative, I need to make sure it says negative, negative B. Okay? So that's important to know that it's there all the time and it has an effect all on its own. B squared here, yes, will always be positive. I don't care what B is. It's positive. Okay? Anytime I square something, it will come out positive. Even a negative, when I square a negative, it becomes a positive. Keep that in mind. This -4 and the 2 on the bottom are part of my formula and will always be there, okay? Then AC, remember your multiplication here. Any order doesn't matter. And here, other thing, no variables go into that, okay? Coefficients go into my quadratic formula, not the variables. Can variables go in? Yes, and then we start getting into theoretical and all that other stuff, but we are not doing that right now. I only want coefficients, so the numbers go into my quadratic formula, okay? So what's going to happen is I'm going to set up my quartic to look very similar to my quadratic. It's going to be in order. It's going to say x to the 4th. It's going to say x squared. I'm going to have a constant. It's going to be equal to 0. And then what's going to happen is I'm going to plug it into this formula using the same ABC, okay? I'm going to simplify it. I'm going to get it down to the end. I'm going to make it nice and as simplified as possible. And then what happens is this is set up for a quadratic. So once I get this down in simplified form, I've got to take that square root one more time. And by taking the square root of that answer one more time, takes care of my quartic. Okay? Are we good? We ready? Oh, anybody know what this is? Right here? Right there? The b squared minus 4ac. Anybody know what that's called? Okay. This is called my discriminant. You should have learned that when we learned quadratic, but that is my discriminant. What that does, so if it pops up on a test or something, you know the word. If I were to just do the b squared minus 4ac and it equals 0, that tells me this plus or minus and that square root at the top goes away because the square root of 0 is 0. All right? That tells me I have one answer. This whole problem has one answer. If I get a negative number, so I do b squared minus 4ac and I get a negative number, now I'm taking the square root of a negative number. I'm going to have two different answers, plus minus, but it's going to be imaginary because it's negative and I'm taking the square root of it. If I do b squared minus 4ac and I get a positive answer, I have two answers, plus minus, and they're real. They could be ugly, there could be radicals involved, there could be decimals involved, but they're going to be real and they're going to be there, okay? All right, we ready to give this a try? Oh, also, one last thing. Do you see this line right here? Do you see how big mine is? Do you see how much mine covers? Yours will do the same. A lot of times what happens is yours gets short and you only tend to do this end. It has to be the entire problem, okay? That division sign goes between the whole thing. So this is my top number, this is my bottom number. Got it? And I need my fraction to show that so I get the right answer, okay? Let's give this one a try, see how you do. All right, so let's look at this. We're going to be fancy for a minute. This is my A. This is my B. This is my C. Okay, so we're going to label them A, B, C. Now I know A is not there. We assume it's a 1, right? When I have nothing in front of my variable, I assume it's a 1. And then we're going to plug in for all my parts. So this is going to be minus B, right? Plus or minus square root of B squared minus 4AC all over. Again, notice how long my line is, right? Started at the beginning and went all the way across, all over 2A. Okay, do you see where everything's coming from, all my different colors and what's happening? Next thing we're going to do is we are going to simplify, right? So now we're going to start doing some math. This is going to tell me this is 4, right? Because minus a negative makes it a positive. Plus or minus, bless you. This is 16 minus 4. That should be a 12. So square root of 12 all over 2. And again, notice my line starts from underneath the 4 all the way across underneath the 12, right? My line did not shift and go under one or the other. Are we okay so far? Okay, so now I need to simplify this further. You should be able to tell me this is 4 plus or minus 2 square roots of 3 over 2, right? Because 12 is 4 and 3. Square root of 4 is 12, and then the 3 stays there, stays in. Are we okay? I expect you to be able to get to this part here, right? We've worked with this enough a little bit. I'm expecting you should be able to get here. You might not be able to simplify at the next step, but here. Okay? For the next step, I want you to look at this, and I'm going to break this into 3 parts. This is 1, 2, back, and 3. Notice how I did not go into that square root, correct? Okay, if you notice, I'm labeling the area out front of the square root, not the square root itself. That is because that square root's like a force field. It doesn't let anything come in. So I can't simplify anything into it, right? So if it was even, I can't divide it by 2 and move on. That 2's not in the square root. It can't do anything to it. All right? So looking at those 3 parts, do those 3 parts have anything in common? What do they have in common?
They're all positive.
They're all positive. You can go with that. What else? They're all even, yes? They're all divisible by 2. Because all 3 parts are divisible by 2, I can simplify this by 2. If one of the 3 parts was not divisible by 2, I can't do it at all. Nobody gets reduced. So this now becomes 2 plus or minus square roots of 3. Because I just simplified everybody by 2. Are we okay with that?
Yeah.
Any questions that far? No? Okay, so now to here, that's my quadratic. Right? I solved my quadratic and I got down to this as an answer. Now I have to solve it for the quartic. That means I have to take this answer and take the square root one more time. That means we start off, we write plus minus square root of, and I know, but we're going to do it.
Bruh.
2 plus or minus square roots of 3. That's your answer. Isn't it pretty? I like it. Okay? I know you guys don't like putting square roots under square roots, but we're going to get used to it, okay?
Okay.
Are we okay with this?
Yes.
Yes. Any questions before we move on?
So that's the answer?
Yes, sir. We good? Okay. So we're going to try the next one. Ready? Do that one. Just a try. Let's see what happens. Again, A, B, C, this should be negative 2 plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And again, remember, look at how big my line is again. Okay, color coder us in. Are we okay with setup? This should be 2 plus minus. That's 4 minus 24. That should be negative 20. All over 2. Are we okay with that? You should be able to simplify that down and tell me this is 2 plus minus 2i square roots of 5 all over 2. Yes, dear. How'd I get 20? Okay. Negative 2 quantity squared, that gives me 4. 4 times 1 is 4, times 6 is 24. So I now have 4 minus 24. That'll give me a negative 20.
So you keep
Do you need
that.
to see it? I'm reading this. That's what's underneath my radical. That is going to give me
I'm just using the formula.
that.
It's easier to use the
Does that make
formula.
more sense? Okay, you got 28, didn't you? It's okay. You get it now? What's the matter, honey?
Did you just keep the b, the negative 2, to the side until you do negative 4 times 1 times 6?
Yes, I do negative 2 squared first. That's my 4.
And just leave it there until
And I don't touch him. Then I'm going to do, I did the rest. So 4 times 1 times 6. That's a positive 24. So my minus didn't change, right? And I got 24. If I had gotten a negative 24,
It would have been positive
it
20.
would have made it 4 plus 24. Okay?
I got it.
So yes, I do the b squared, set it aside, and then I go back in and do the rest. Okay? Once I'm here, make sure you're looking at your 3 parts to see if it can be simplified. The answer is yes. Oops, still got my lightsaber going. So this is going to be 1 plus or minus I square roots of 5 if I simplify everything down. That's my quadratic, right? Take it one more step to my quartic. Plus minus, make a beautiful little radical. And put my square root underneath, yeah? And I'm all done. Are we okay with that? Yes, dear?
Where did you get the 1?
This 1? Okay. So this 2 divided by this 2. Remember I said, oops, you. We'll do pink. I have 3 sections. 1, 2, 3. They're all divisible by 2, correct? So 2 divided by 2 is 1. 2i divided by 2 is I. And 2 divided by 2 is 1. That's why there's nothing underneath.
In the other column we had
That's what you do.
Same idea, same concept.
2.
Right, because I started out with a 4. So look, where's my work? So I was here, right? That was a 4. So 4 divided by 2 was 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And then 2 divided by 2 is 1.
Oh, okay.
Okay? All right. So we're here. Are we all okay here? We are at 2 o'clock, so they're going to be starting soon. You have one problem for homework tonight. Singular. One.
It must be one.
That one. That is your singular homework problem.
Okay.
I think it's easy, but it's long.
It's just long. You got one of them. You can do this, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's your homework tonight.